or at 3. And he's like, are you just too busy? I'm like, oh, come on, dude.
And that out of office that I have set up since like March, that I stole from Jeremy Forcier and changed it a little bit, but I mean, it seems to be really helpful.
That's good.
It's setting that expectation. Then when you do reply, like the same day on a refi, everyone's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for getting back to me so quickly.
Yeah.
I was wondering how people were receiving that, because I was like, do they think, oh, you're too busy, I'm going to call somebody else? But everybody else is slammed too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. No one said anything negative.
Yeah, no, I've got a lot of emails like, I know you guys are super busy right now, and I'm sorry to be like picky with you. Like, okay, I understand where that comes from.
Well, if it's a past client and they're used to getting, you know, they send me a mortgage statement and I have them a breakdown back in half an hour.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still trying to way over deliver on that, but it seems to be setting it up for being able to over deliver, under promise and over deliver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just about ready to get started. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Let's go. Thanks for joining, everybody. We're going to change up a little bit what we're going to do today, because we've been working on I've been working with an Excel guru for the last few months on an updated version of our refinance breakdown, just because the one we have has gotten so unwieldy with all the tabs and all the different loan options that are on it. And so Giuseppe's been the one that's been beta testing it, just because he does so many. And so when he found something that was broken, I didn't want everybody giving me things that were broken, just letting Giuseppe use it and give me back things that were broken that I could get fixed and repaired. And then I was actually dragging my feet on getting stuff done as fast as I wanted to. I wasn't dragging my feet, but it was just as busy as I am getting things done. Got Michelle, when Michelle moved over from Giuseppe's team to work with the guy that's building it. And so I'm going to have Giuseppe demonstrate how to use it, because it's got a lot more features and turns into a lot better, I think a lot better presentation. And so, but for now, let's go ahead and get started, and I want to do it as quickly as we can. Any takeaways from the book? It Takes What It Takes, and then what you're grateful for. Let's start at the top with Ryan.
All right. Well, I was just rereading the chapter, It Takes Hard Choices, last night, and one thing really stuck out to me. It said, if you are what you do, then when you don't, you aren't. Our choices lead our behaviors, which impact who we become. New behaviors led by new choices create a different you. So I used to kind of like think I could behave my way into becoming something, where like this really stuck out to me, that, you know, every single little choice that you make it ends up becoming the big picture. So that's something that I've really tried to think about recently. And then as far as what I'm grateful for, I am grateful, I think, just for how busy we are. It's great that we've been able to get this much, be able to help this many families, and be able to work for, you know, Giuseppe, and I've gained a lot of experience, and I'm really grateful for that.
Right on, man. Cool. Giuseppe, how about you?
one quote that stood out in the book recently was, or in the recording, was don't put a period where God put a comma, where, you know, how a situation will continue to play out is based on kind of like your next actions and words. So even if it seems like just the worst day ever, you know, try and fight through it so that you end up in a positive note, because it's not over, you know, the next day is going to happen. So pretty minor, but I'm grateful for just taking some time in the afternoons now that days are longer, and like around 5 or 6, just unplug and go do something with like one of my kids, like at a time, so it's just the two of us. So I've been trying to do that lately in the afternoons to kind of make it feel like summer.
Right. Yeah. Right. Cool. Thanks, Jack.
The piece that stuck out for me in the book recently is the part where he did the experiment on just listening to the negative stuff and then kind of what that did. I thought that was really interesting. And like how quickly it just kind of turned him on its head. So that was just really interesting to kind of read through, and we all know that that's what happens, but it's interesting to read somebody else's perspective from it. And then I am grateful they started doing yoga on the rocks again to only 175 people per session, which is pretty great. So I got to do yoga at 7 a.m. at Red Rocks on Sunday.
All right on. Casey?
I actually started the book this week, so that's pretty good. I'm one chapter in, so I'm grateful actually that I started it, because just his analogies and the way that he works with these athletes is something that definitely resonates with me, so I can appreciate that. The other story that I had, I'm just grateful for some of the partners that I work with. I had someone that they had referred to me, kind of a one-off weird scenario, and just couldn't get a borrower authorization back from the clients. I tried multiple times to reach out to them, tried to get them to print, sign, e-sign, whatever it could be. They just never got it back to me. And I finally get an email from the husband who says, hey, we're going to go to a lender that actually responds to us. And that was all he said. I go, okay, I talked to you once. I've reached out to you multiple times and you haven't responded and got me the one thing I need to show your income for an approval, because they're both variable income. So it's with easily the top referral partner that I have. And I just forwarded it to him that night, said, hey, I'll call you first thing tomorrow morning. They said, you know what? Don't worry about it one bit. We had one other closing later that day. They texted me while they're at the closing and just said, hey, we want to let you know that the feedback from these clients was that you were absolutely the best. We appreciate the work that you do. Keep it up. Thanks. So I was just grateful for those good relationships. When you have, and this is something that I've always done in sales, if you have good relationships with the people that you work with and they trust you and they're willing to talk to you about these things when something goes wrong, you're always going to win.
Because something can always go wrong. That's just, the partnership is so critical. That's a great point, Casey, because something can always go wrong. If you've got a partner who's going to throw you under the bus the first sign of trouble, regardless of what it is, it's not a partnership, right? Because you, as a loan officer, you will find yourself, I certainly did find myself defending my real estate agents way more often than they had to defend me, And so, but you know, I recognize people are human and things happen. Doesn't even sound like you dropped the ball. So it's cool that they trusted you enough to just say, don't worry about it. So, John. Claire?
Oh, I'm going to try my best. I have no voice.
Uh-oh.
So if you can't hear me, I'm sorry. The best part I took up from chapter 2 was when he was talking about Russell Wilson throwing the touchdown pass. And if you're willing to throw the pass and it be successful, you have to be willing to throw the pass and it not be successful. And I think we focus so much on the being successful and we let the fear of not being successful overrule us. So you just have to accept both ends of the spectrum before moving forward.
I love that analogy because he was using it. He said he got it from Derek Jeter, who's a Yankee fan, and when Jeter said, if you want to have a chance to hit a home run to win the game, you got to be willing to strike out. And that's like that, and that whole thought is like, wow, that's really intense. And to have that level of confidence and courage, like going, I'm just going to go, I'm just doing it. And so that's cool. Yeah, good one. Thanks, Claire. June?
Sorry, my mouse wasn't working. I was actually going to say the same thing as Claire is, you know, on the book and in life, sometimes you let fear stop you from doing a lot of things. And I think that it's, you know, a really important lesson. And so that was what really stood out for me. And then being grateful, I sitting here in this meeting and just listening to everybody's different perspective. I feel very grateful for that. You know, with work and kids and family, I don't always have that time to, you know, spend with other people and quarantine and stuff. So this is good. I like it.
Right on. Cool. Thanks. Lily?
I'm just grateful for my parents' health. They tested positive for COVID a couple weeks ago, but they had minor symptoms, nothing too severe. They're doing great now, so I'm just very grateful they got through that okay. And then for the book, just whatever things that people throw at you can determine your mindset, especially in big moments in your life. You just kind of want to block those people out. And it goes for everything, like if you log into social media, if you listen to the news, most of those thoughts basically generate your own thoughts. We just don't ever think about it. So that's the reason I always try to stay away from things like that, is just because I want to, you know, make analysis of my own, whatever that situation is, and going from there. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jan?
Yeah, so I was actually going to touch on what Jack had said. The experiment that he runs on how outside influencers affect your daily life, such as the country music or the negative, you know, TV and the news and the media. It's actually something I've implemented for myself, to where I'm not paying attention to the media for the next 30 days, and just to kind of see how it changes my mindset. And how it allows me to not get caught up on the fact that we have Corona, or, you know, the market's crashing, or all those negative things that are occurring. And I don't like country music as it is, so that one's been kind of easy. I am grateful that my feet are starting to feel better. Not 100%, but we're closer than when it first happened, so.
Does everybody know what he did? Do we know? Yeah, we talked about this last week. John, go ahead. Thanks, Jan.
As other people talked about moving on, I recently decided to sell my second home in Louisiana. So grateful that went super smooth. Had a 1 week marketing time and 3 week closing, and bought a new house here. So
cool.
Grateful for all that went smooth, and I am farther away from Louisiana as we speak.
Right on. Who is this 630 area code?
Emily.
Oh, okay. I was like going, who is that? I don't know why I don't know. How are you, Emily?
I'm all right.
Nobody on this call knows what's going on, and so I haven't. So, Emily, is it okay if I tell everybody?
Yeah, I don't care.
Emily has shingles.
Yeah, they are something. They are no joke. So I think I'll be grateful when they're over, but not there yet. So yeah, it's kind of painful, but I'll get through it. It'll be fine. I'll be fine. So
you're actually doing really good. You're considering how much I know that can hurt, you sound like you're doing really good. So thanks for getting on the call. Do you have anything about the book you want to share?
Yeah, what stuck out to me is just the impact of your own language on yourself. So knowing that your words can influence you 10 times more than anyone else's stuck out to me. And then also, I like the I versus if analogy, or kind of what he pointed out. If implies a choice, I makes a commitment. I think that's just a very simple mindset and perspective shift that can have a big impact.
Right on. Cool.
And for real, what I'm grateful for is FaceTime and Alexa drop-in and all the kind of virtual things that we have at our disposal. My sister had a baby in March, and with everything with quarantine, I haven't been able to go out and meet him. And so I'm just really grateful that we have things like that, so I can, still see him and feel like I'm near him, even though I'm not.
Cool. Thanks. Well, I was listening to the book this morning on the way to the gym, and it was the chapter of, he's talking about going on a negativity diet and the whole process of exposing himself to everything that's negative. And what struck me is about that story was how he, he's like a freaking, he's like a black belt in neutral thinking, and yet just exposing himself to the negative news media and the whole country music thing makes me laugh. I'm not a country music fan. I actually don't like country music at all, so I never listened to it. But I've never thought of it that I always laughed about, your truck broke down and your dog died and your wife left. And I know those stories, and they kind of make me laugh, but I never thought about it in that context until I read that book. And it just goes to that idea of whatever you're exposing yourself to, people, situations, books, movies, anything that you see on social media. I've just, over the last 3 weeks, completely distanced myself from any of the rhetoric on social media related to what's going on in the government, what's going on in Seattle, what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, what's going on with everything, because it's so divisive. There's nothing, it's just, and I feel so much better. I just feel better. I just feel lighter. I feel, I know I'm in a better mood. And and all I've done is like, I'm just going to stop, just stop. Like, just get away. When you think about when you're associated with, we've all done this. We've had people in our lives that are just drama people. And when you distance yourself from them, you just feel better, because when they're coming around you, you're like, oh no, I'm going to hear all about it again. And given that that's the reality of it, it would be no different than how anything negative can impact your life. So really powerful. Before we get started with Giuseppe, Jacqueline, I would like Jacqueline to share a quick, do you have a screen share of that you can share? This is a client that she told me about this morning, a client that she has locked in on a refinance, and we're in process. And the client, go ahead, Jack, you can tell the rest of the story and show the breakdown, show the loan estimate.
Sure. So it's a friend of mine, and we're through appraisal and everything else. And she's like, hey, we were talking to Chase and about something unrelated. And they went ahead and they ran a refinance scenario for us. And they quoted us 2.375. Is there any way you can match that? And my response was, no, because you have to do some really big buy down points. So can you send me the breakdown? So she sent this to me this morning. So we're at 2.375, but we're bringing 20,000 to close, which I thought was weird until I got to page 2 and I saw that they're charging her 4.36 in discount points for
20 grand in points.
$20,000. So I thought that was really funny. And now I don't have to worry about matching the rate because it's not real. So that was all.
Isn't that crazy?
I haven't done the math on what the payment savings or the break even is, but I will before I call her back. So
yeah, that's funny. Yeah, it'll only take you about 8 years to break even, or more than that. Isn't that a crazy number? Anyway.
Well, and I have her locked in at 2.8, so with no points. So I'm like, this seems stupid, but okay.
It is stupid. Anyway, good. Thanks for sharing. Okay, Giuseppe, go ahead with your screen share. And then everybody, this is Go ahead. I don't know. I haven't been using it. You have.
I want to touch on Jack's story. That reminds me, I think I talked about it a few months ago. There was a lady that was locked in on a 15-year fixed refi, smaller loan, like a client from a long time ago, $160,000 loan. And mid-process, she spoke to Chase, and Chase quoted her a rate that was, a lot lower, maybe 0.75% lower, 0.5% lower, something like that. So she sent me the loan estimate, and they were charging her, I think, 3 points, 3.5 points, something like that, on that size loan. And of course, they had to roll all those fees into the loan, right? So the payment savings ended up being like $20 less than my estimate. But to break even on those fees was going to take about 17 years, but it was a 15-year fixed loan. So it's like, I don't know, do the math.
That's why our clients are so easily enamored with the rate. And that's why the whole discussion about what's your rate is so interesting, right? Like, well, I get you whatever rate you want, but let me show you how to do this the way I wish somebody would have shown me how to do it the first time I got a loan. Would you like to see that? And that's what the total cost analysis is about. And that's why what Giuseppe's about to show you, that's why we built the refinance breakdown. The refinance breakdown, the thing about doing refinances when I first got in the business is I always had to sell the refinance again at the end because my numbers were never right. So we built a refinance breakdown years ago to get the numbers right so that we could get the payoff right, so that we could get the escrows right, so that we get the closing out, and then have a way to demonstrate and explain it, and then being willing to show a break even. Because on that, to Jacqueline's point, there's no break even analysis going on that deal, right? They're not showing the guy what the break even is. And that's the difference. We're not order takers. We're here to help you save money. Let me show you. Let's just see if it makes sense, right? So that's what this is. Go ahead, dude.
Okay. So yeah, we've been working on this, since end of last year, something like that.
Yeah.
And kind of kept getting new things that come up, but it looks very similar. And I think Lily did a video that she's going to share, or Dave's going to share, on how to set up the input screen. But everybody can see this, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it looks very similar to how it is now. In this case, we were paying off a first and a second mortgage. You're setting up your dates. Here, I think this is different, where you're splitting up the tax number into February and June, and then you're plugging in the insurance premium, of course, whenever it's due. So by doing that, it's giving us, when we go over to this next tab here, the main differences are that there are some fields here that we wanted to clean up and not show if it doesn't pertain to the transaction. So if they're not paying off a second mortgage, if they're not getting a new second mortgage, if they're not getting a closing cost credit, or financing mortgage insurance, or doing an upfront premium, or paying monthly mortgage insurance, you can actually now get rid of all those fields. So that's one thing, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. The other one is that if you want to show them different terms, now there's a drop-down menu up here. So you can change it to, 30, 25, 20, 15, or 10. And by doing that, it fixes all the amortization. It changes it down here. It changes it right here. All those little things that you had to go in and do manually before on the old refi breakdown. At least I was doing that manually. So it's really easy if you're showing them a couple different terms to just get it ready, print out the 30, and then flip it to a 20, change the rate, flip it to a 15, whatever you want. So it's been super helpful. So here's how I go through and decide what I'm going to remove. So the fields you can remove are over here. If you push on this little arrow, anything that's here, first and second half taxes due, second mortgage payoff, financed upfront MI, insurance due, lender credit, monthly MI, new second mortgage, and all the little fields and calculations that go along with that. Non-financed MIP, so like an upfront premium that you're not financing into the loan. If we're doing the refinance past client credit, that's called the promo credit. And then if you don't have any subordination fees or condo questionnaires, you could remove that field. So in this case, I'm going through here, so we're paying off a second mortgage. So of course I want to leave that, the refi breakdown, when you get it, will have all these open, these fields open or visible. And so in this case, I'm going to leave that there. Down here is the lender promo credit. So what I didn't like on the old refi breakdown was that you were showing them the fees up front and then the credit was way down at the bottom. In this case, the credit is right here. And so then they get a nice highlighted true closing cost number, which is just easier for the eye, I think, than to have to scroll all the way down to see where the lender credit is. But in this case, like this gal is getting a PIW, so I can just go in here, zero out the appraisal. And then it also changes the lender credit down here to $1,497 instead of the, 2,000, whatever it was. Okay. If you have one borrower, you flip this to $50 for that. I'm not doing an upfront mortgage insurance premium, but if we were, it would be there. You can enter.
Show what happens when you get rid of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So we're keeping the second. Okay. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm not doing financed and actually, let's see. There it is. Non-financed MIP. So I can uncheck that box, and that field goes away. So it's not there. I'm not doing any subordination fees. So I can uncheck that box. Okay. Down here, prepaids and escrows, now by split, whatever kind of voodoo magic was done on that entry screen with splitting up the taxes and insurance, it'll tell you right here if we have to collect that full-year insurance premium. And also if taxes are due, which of course now the rest of the year you don't have to worry about that that field because taxes are all been paid. But this is nice to see because it splits it up and it gives you an accurate aggregate adjustment right here. We should probably call this aggregate adjustment.
Yeah.
So current taxes due, we're not paying any taxes, so I'm going to get rid of that one. And this, after you build a few of these, it's super easy to just build it and then go in and clear up everything you don't need. So first and second half taxes due, I'm going to remove that. So that goes away. If there was no insurance due, like there isn't, most of the time, you can uncheck that and that goes away. In this case, there was.
You're not doing a new second, right?
We're not doing a new second on this. So see, right now we have all this stuff here for the second mortgage, and then also this and this are all new second mortgage related fields. And by getting rid of new second mortgage, all those get cleaned up. So it just becomes a much easier document to review. In this case, I'm not doing an additional lender credit on top of the refi promo. We're not paying mortgage, so that goes away. I'm not doing a finance mortgage insurance premium, and I'm not doing monthly MI. And so just getting rid of those. Oh wait, insurance due. We are paying off a second, the insurance is due, and I'm showing them a promo credit. So this would be like the final breakdown that I sent them. And then yeah, there's this nice break-even calculation, which is super helpful for people to see. Sometimes they're not saving as much, right? So for past client refis, our costs are so low. Like in the email that I send clients, I say, hey, the average American spends $5,000 to $6,000 on a refinance. This is $1,400, but I'm also sending you a different option with a point if you wanted to see what it's like to buy the rate down and the break even. Everything's accurate there, so they can make the best decision for them. But obviously, it's been really easy to sell with the refi promo for past clients. We're seeing like 3, 4, 5, 6 month break even periods on the fees. And the conversation is like, well, should we do something or should we wait? And so I've always pretty much been telling them, well, we don't know that rates are going to move lower. They could move lower. If the economy gets a lot worse, the virus gets a lot worse, certainly we could see lower rates. If that's the case, it might take 6 months to a year for that to happen, for the economy to really move a lot worse with unemployment and, all kinds of bad things. And so if that's the case, then you've already broken even on these closing costs in a short period of time. So we could look at doing this again a year from now. And if the economy gets better and there's a vaccine and everything goes back to where it was earlier this year, where the economy was excellent, then all of a sudden now you've just locked in a rate, right, within 0.25% of the lowest ever seen by mankind, and you have those savings for the future. So they're kind of protected both ways. We're not spending a lot of fees on a refinance in case they end up, redoing it 6 months to a year from now, and they're still getting excellent savings. So
now when you do the print layout, are you sending this to the customer in a PDF?
Yes.
And then, are we eliminating all the fields left to the right of the column H when you do that?
They don't show up when you do. I just go save copy on my desktop and print it, save it as a PDF, and those are not in the print field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's got it set up as a print. The print. Yeah. So your customer isn't going to see any of that.
Yeah, they're not going to see any of that stuff. So I'll show you kind of what it looks like here. But
I'm going to get rid of that interest only verbiage in the payment lines where it says principal and interest or interest only.
Yeah. So yeah, this is this is what the client sees. So very similar to ours now, just once you get used to it, a lot easier. And of course, like the issue, all the bugs that were worked out, we feel like they're probably all worked out at this point. But it's been great to use. So
big part of this is getting this escrow, I will change the name to aggregate adjustment. I like having the aggregate in there because it just makes it a little bit cleaner for the loan amount, setting up the loan the right way. The customer typically doesn't want an extra $1,000 back at closing, and the way this is built, without that escrow adjustment, we would have had to reset the loan. When I said, in the old days, I used to have to resell the client at the end of the transaction, is because I never had the numbers right. They were bringing money to closing, or they were getting more money back than they had planned, or the loan amount had to be adjusted and the payment was going to change, and you still had to go like, but you're still saving money. And that's the reason that we use a document like this. At first, if you're new to the business or you're new using this document, it seems like wow, there's a lot of stuff here. It's like, well, when you go to explain this to a customer, they get it. They totally get it, because you just walk through each section. First, we're going to talk about your payoffs. Do you have any questions? Great. Now let's talk about your closing costs. Do you have any questions? And just go through it section by section. So it's always been a really powerful tool for us. And then using this document, once you've set this up, you can set up your total cost analysis and mortgage coach much more accurately and show these options side by side. So I would never, when I was still producing, and I know Giuseppe, you don't ever do a refinance without using this document, correct?
No.
Yeah. So I don't know if everybody uses that, but I would never do it because it's just so simple to explain once you're using it. And so all the new people will be trained this way. But anyway, that's it. Does anybody have any questions or feedback?
Yeah, when do we get a copy?
I'll make a couple more of these adjustments, and then before I do I had Lily recorded how to do the inputs, but there's a couple of things that are not frozen out of the one you guys are using that are going to be that on the input screen. So we have to make an adjustment to it. So Lily, I might have you do another recording, but it didn't take you too long. So it was really well done. You're not going to be, I think that there's a couple of places where some fields are going to be frozen out, and you're only going to be putting the insurance information in the yellow section where Giuseppe just showed it, and the taxes information in that yellow section. You're not going to be filling it into the gray boxes. So then that will just do the math for you. So you're not going to have to do it. You won't enter it in both places, just one. And then I'll get rid of that interest only verbiage in there, and then change the escrow adjustment to aggregate adjustment. And then what we'll do is, the more people that are going to use it, the more you guys are going to have feedback. Yeah, so those will be great. Those will be locked out.
Okay. Now, is Lily entering these manually here and then adding?
Yeah, she's doing it in both places.
Oh, okay, got it.
And this way, you won't have to do it in both. And then as soon as and then it'll be locked out. So that on that home tab, we can. What's nice about this new form is there's just one tab for conventional, one for FHA, one for VA. Don't throw your old ones away. I don't know if anybody's doing. We have CHAFA on those other ones, and we don't have a CHAFA tab here. So don't throw your old one away. You may still have to use that if you're doing a CHAFA refi. But
they don't do them.
What's that?
There's no CHAFA refis anymore, are there?
I don't know. So if
there's
not,
no way, like in March. So.
Okay, good. All right, never mind. See how little I know about doing loans today? Anyway,
yeah, and Dave, I have a couple ideas. We can do it off this call, but just on freezing some of the, like in FHA and VA, right? Like we're not going to ever have monthly MI in the VA, so that doesn't need to be in there. FHA, we're never going to do like an FHA with a mortgage, so like some of that. Like we can clean up so that the master one that goes out doesn't have so many things that need to be adjusted manually.
Well, and so what we'll do, guys, is what we used to do is we used to just store these in one location and then be one version of it. What we want to do is I got to lock up the fields because I don't want you screwing up the field and then potentially disclosing something to a customer that we have to honor because somebody broke one of the formulas. So we'll have to go back to where we just got one version of this that we keep locked up, and then everybody will have to access it from that location, which is no big deal. You can keep what I used to do is I used to keep a shortcut to the regional, to this one on my desktop. So I didn't have to like go, and then if that one ever changed, I would update that one, your shortcut, but you'll know if we make a change to it. But Giuseppe, if you've got some other ideas and changes that need to be able to get those over to me as soon as possible so we can get this new one out. And thank you for doing this today. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Right on. That's it for me. Does anybody have any questions? Besides, how fast can you get it? Which I knew was coming. I was waiting. I was like, so when can I have it? Right on.
That aggregate adjustment is key because, right, if you're ever, like Dave was saying, people don't always, if you're trying to zero them out, but in the past, would be like, okay, yeah, we're zeroed out, and then now they're getting back, $1,000 at closing, which they weren't expecting. Some people are happy about that, but it should be more accurate than that because if someone's trying to get $2,000 out, now you're making loan level, loan adjustments at the last minute because everything was way overestimated up front. So
what I liked is clients, I always thought this, I don't know if it was true, but I always felt like the client's always going to be sensitive because I'm sensitive about if I'm doing a refinance myself, like this is my balance now, what's my balance going to be? And if I'm inflating it to zero it out an extra $1,000 because I'm not calculating an aggregate adjustment, it just, in my mind, I think the $1,000 matters. So So that's why I like having it in there. Something that we've been working on for a while. We're also working on getting the APR calculation in there. He's working on it. I don't know if he's got it accurate yet or not. So we'll eventually add the APR will be in there as well. But it was pulling teeth to get the aggregate done right. It's like there's a tab at the bottom. You'll see the formula that he built. This guy's a genius when it comes to working in Excel. He actually is former military. I think he worked for the CIA. He just hasn't. He's Jay Barber's brother-in-law, and he's a freak. Like you can tell, like he knows how to launch missiles with Excel. So it's a pretty cool dude. Anyway, all right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you for your time. I'll get a recording of this out to everybody as well, and then we'll get the new thing distributed as soon as Giuseppe gives me a few more updates to make, and then we get them changed. All right. Thanks, everyone. Let's make it a great day.